Welcome beyond the Reiki Gateway. I'm your host, Andrea Kennedy. Like countless others, Reiki found me when I wasn't even looking, and then it ignited a whole new world of questions. This podcast explores topics of interest for the spiritually curious. Join me for discussions and special guests on subjects such as past lives, crystal healing, spiritual awakening, ascension, energy healing, and more, all to assist and inspire you along your unique soul's journey. This episode is sponsored by Mainstream Reiki, offering live and online Reiki classes and a membership community to help Reiki practitioners succeed and grow in their practice. Find out more at mainstreamreiki.com. Welcome to Beyond the Reiki Gateway. I'm Andrea, and I have with me today Emma Dunwoody. And Emma is a human design expert and the host of the top-ranked Human Design podcast. She is waking people up to the power within them with her own unique method of transformational human design. Emma's vision is to take human design mainstream, believing it will transform personal development, education, and business forever. Emma is with us to help you unlock your inner wisdom, take your power back, and feel deeply confident in those decisions that you have to make every day in your life. And as we do this for ourselves, we'll help create a new paradigm for us all, one of peace, joy, and abundance. So Emma, thank you so much for being here all the way from Australia. And it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm super excited. Episode 1 of season 5.
Thanks for having me, Andrea. I'm really pumped to be here and talk about all things human design.
Yeah. Human design, I just heard about this, I would say, in the last few years. And I don't know how old it is or the background or anything like that. And I think a lot of us listening are actually beginners with human design. So if you could start with a little bit of the basic, what is human design? Because all I really know about it is there's different types and we need our birth date and things like that. And there's a chart. So if you could help fill in all around that and help us understand more about it, that'd be great.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So human design is pretty new, although what makes up human design is ancient wisdom. So it actually was birthed in 1988, but it's a culmination, it's a synthesis, it's like mathematically mapped together Western astrology, the Hindu chakra system, the Kabbalah tree of life, and the Chinese I Ching. And all 4 of these ancient wisdoms are mapped together to give you what we call your chart or your natal chart, just like in astrology. And ultimately what human design is it's your energetic blueprint. So I love to, because my background is coaching, behavioral coaching, I've done a lot of profiling. So using tools like disc profiling or Myers-Briggs or Enneagram. It's similar to all of those. However, whenever we use a behavioral or a personality profiling tool, then we're accessing the information through the mind. What do I mean? I mean, we answer questions to get there. So we're answering questions about who we think we are. And the key word is think. It's like, it's not, unless you have a really great facilitator, you're not going to access really who you are. You're going to access who you think you are. Now, these things are pretty accurate. Don't get me wrong. They can be really powerful, especially with good facilitators. However, human design doesn't ask you who you think you are. It actually takes a reading from a moment in time, from the moment you were born and about 3 months before you were born, of when you were imprinted by certain themes. Okay. And this is our time of birth. Now, what it gives us is our energetic blueprint. So it's how our energy works, how our aura works, the themes that we are going to constantly come up against, how we're best designed to fulfill our purpose, make decisions, all sorts of things. And the way I kind of look at it, given my experience, is I feel our human design sits beneath the personality, beneath the behavior. It's actually the energy that is most authentically you. And then we create an identity between the ages of 0 to 7 through our conditioning, who we need to be to receive love, connection, and belonging. And then ultimately, what our human design helps us do is to decondition, so let go of the person we think we should be, so we can actually allow this authentic version of ourselves to express through us, and then create the life we actually want to live, and we came here to live, as opposed to living a conditioned life that we think we should.
I think that's really interesting that it came about relatively recently, when you compare it to all of those other
Yeah.
aspects of it, because it seems like we're more open to that these days than before that. People are,
Mm,
I think, wanting to be more authentic. They're wanting to um, know who they are and what their purpose in life is, I think, unlike before that. So I think
mm.
that's interesting that how did it come about? I mean, um, all of these things coming together.
Yeah, so it was actually channeled by a guy who he's now called Ra Uruhu. And it's a channeled piece of information, like, let's say, A Course in Miracles. We know that this is channeled information that was channeled by a psychologist over a longer period of time. But with human design, it was channeled over 8 days. So over this 8 day period, Ra was given very specific information, so that he could actually put these ancient wisdoms together and then use them, in a functional way. So I often kind of reflect on anyone who's like, I'm not really sure about channeled stuff. Like, it would take the human brain years to mathematically map together these ancient wisdoms. Like, there's no way in 8 days we could have just thought our way there. So I also do think that it was birthed at a very specific time with a very specific person. He was a manifester, and manifestors are here to initiate something new, to start something. And it was actually birthed in a way that, he, although a brilliant man who brought these great things to the world, he was a very troubled, man who lived in his shadow quite a bit. So the actual when human design was first birthed, it kind of just as much inspired people as irritated people. And it was the irritation that kind of built a lot of curiosity, because the language was very negative, and there was all of these other things that kind of irritated people, which was my first experience with human design. I didn't like the language. Being a behavioral coach, I'm very aware of the words that come out of my mouth. It's what I'm telling people all the time. Like, you are literally creating your reality with the words that you're using. So ultimately, I think it was very deliberately birthed onto the planet at the right time by the right person in the way that it needed to have this massive growth. I mean, back when I first got into human design, no one knew about it. No one was talking about it. And then over the last probably 3 years, it has just escalated. And I think, like you said, it's the right tool for the right time. It gives us a depth of specificity we just haven't had in the past.
Yeah, I think so. I had my chart done before. I know you offer that on your website too, so everybody can go get their free chart, find out exactly what they are, and listen to the show, because I do want to get into the different types. I'm sure some of our listeners already know what their type is, and you know, I guess let's go there. So
Mm.
I would imagine this opens up a whole path for people if they're ready for it, when they find out this information. What can you tell us about that?
So type is really where we jump off. I always talk about, like, this is where we begin. Now, type was something that was created to help group together how energy works. However, what I would say is start with type, because it gives us some very important information, like our strategy, like our signature, like our not self theme, and really helps us understand how our energy is designed to do the work that we want to do in the world. However, we don't want to get stuck on it. We don't want to just move from, one dogma to another and go, well, because I'm a projector, then I must be like this. That's not true. That's Human design is an experiment. So don't take my word for it. Wait, pay attention, listen. What resonates? What do you feel, inspired to learn more about, and follow that, because once you do that, then you are invited into the experiment of human design, and you just run it, like you just give it a go, see what's true for you, and perhaps maybe what's not. So if we start with type, there are 4 types. Well, technically 4 types, but 5 types. I'm going to talk about 5 types. The first one is a manifester. So manifestors, they're about 10% of the global population. They are here to initiate. They are here to inspire people into action. They will tend to be people that can feel a little bit polarizing, like they're your kind of person or they're not your kind of person. And as the manifestor themselves, they often feel, as a young child, they notice that people either like them or don't like them. And that can be something that conditions them. They become people pleasers. And ultimately, our manifestors need to be so unapologetically themselves because they're here to inspire others into action. So they are very specific people that they're here to inspire. So following their creative urge, initiating the things that they want to do, that's what being a manifestor is all about. Then the next type is a generator. And generators, along with manifesting generators, make up just over 70% of the global population. So this is most of the population. So our generators, they are what we call sacral beings. What that means is their sacral, their gut, is always telling them, yes, I have energy for this, or no, I don't. Okay, so it's all about trusting that your gut knows what is correct for you in each moment. Now, generators are designed to respond. So this is especially in the personal development world, we're kind of taught like, go out and take massive action, go and initiate, go and do this. And that is not correct for generators and manifesting generators. What is correct is to respond, because their gut's going to tell them what they do and don't have energy for. And in every moment we're responding. I'm responding to you. You're asking me a question. My sacral's like, yeah, I've got something to say about that. So just trusting the flow of the back and forth. The sacral says, yes, I have energy, but no, I don't. Or no, I don't. And the challenge for the generator, they're actually here to build our new world. They're the ones that once they're inspired into action, they want to build because they're lit up by something. They're passionate and they have this energy to work and they want to work. They're the people that have the energy to work Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. Whereas our manifestors, they're going to work in a way where whenever the creative urge is flowing through them, so that might be a week and they're just like completely down a rabbit hole doing the thing, and then they take a week off. Generators and manifesting generators, they have this energy the whole time to keep working. But the key is you must be lit up. It must be a clear sacral yes. Now, the manifesting generator is a hybrid of the manifestor and the generator. So there are things that are very in common with both of those for the MG. But the MG is here to build what lights them up. They're also here to demonstrate human potential. Now, these are people who they will tend to often in their shadow feel like they're too much. They want too much, they are too much, they speak too much, they do too much. But really they're a lot. They've got a lot of energy to do a lot of things. They're non-linear, multi-passionate, and they will tend to skip bits. So they learn faster, get out quicker, and they will very happily kind of make a mess and find a better way through that process. Again, they are always in response, all right? And both the manifestor and the manifesting generator need to be informing, like just telling people what they're doing. Now, the projector, which makes up about 14% of the global population, these are our guides. These are people who are here to be seen, recognized, and valued for the wisdom that lies within them. The challenge is that wisdom must be invited from them. Often a projector in their shadow kind of forces people to see them. They want to get attention for their wisdom, to prove what they know. But really, it's the other way around. You must invest in the wisdom and see your own, like validate yourself first, and then wait for the invitations. Because once your wisdom is invited in, then you become like Yoda. People just want to sit at your feet and hear what you have to say. So it's a very important shift of dynamic, if you like. And then we have reflectors, and they are 1% of the global population. And they are constantly telling us from anywhere from a one-on-one relationship to a small group, maybe a family, a community, a business, a town, country, they are reflecting back the truth of what is actually going on in that person, group, country. They are our mirrors. So it's super important as a reflector that you find the people, the places, the opportunities, environments that feel really great to you, because you're amplifying that energy. And we want to create more of that as we move into this new paradigm.
I find it fascinating. I would think that reflectors, ooh, that would be tough to be a reflector, I think.
Well,
May
it's interesting you say that, because a lot of people would I think agree with you. I think the
Yeah,
biggest challenge about being a reflector is that we are not conditioned to be that way. You know, these are the kids that they want to be something different every week, because it's going to depend on who they're around. But a lot of reflectors that I've spoken to that were raised with a lot of freedom, with a lot of freedom to just be themselves and to keep morphing into these different versions of themselves. Um, then they feel, really at peace and really at home. They love that.
yeah. Um, Interesting 1%. Um,
Yeah.
as you were going through the percentages, though, I have a question about historically.
Mhm.
So, there are a lot of builders. You said building a lot, in there, and we could say, is that around 70%? Is that
Mhm.
right?
Just
Okay.
yep, just over 70%, yep.
Yeah, and so if we went back a few generations, how would
Mhm.
that shift these percentages, or would it?
Well, that's actually a great question, because the projector is actually a new type. So it was in the 1800s that the projector came in. So there were more builders back then, less guides. So we actually are evolving. And according to human design and Ra, like, we're going to have another evolutionary phase in 2027 where we have this new type of human that comes in. But yeah, so it has shifted. It's definitely shifted through history. And now, obviously, there's been more of a need for, the projector is all about efficiencies. It's about improving efficiencies. So if the generators and the manifesting generators are out there building things, and the manifestors are sparking us all, inspiring us all into action, then we now have these projectors that are like, okay, you can do it better by doing this, or do less of this or more of that. Or so it definitely has evolved over time.
Yeah, and a new type is coming in just a few
Mm.
years?
Well, it's not a new type. It's an evolution of one of what we call the centers. It's the solar plexus. This is all evolving, and it's going to be, we are changing the way we relate to our emotions. So at the moment, the human race we are at the mercy of emotion. If you think about even like war, what is war? It's a result of emotion. So we are at the mercy of our emotions. And according to Ra and the voice, this is this next evolutionary place, because we are also moving, and we all know this. It doesn't matter what methodology you listen to. We are moving from the mind to the body. We are moving from thinking to feeling. So in human design, the way we talk about that is our evolutionary shift is from thinking, and everything with human design is about moving you out of the head and into the body, so that you can access the biofeedback. You can access the guidance that's in you, the higher self, the heart, the soul, whatever you want to call it. And this mutation, this solar plexus mutation that's happening in 2027, the kids that are born from that place, they will not be at the mercy of their emotions. They will be guided by how they feel, but they will not be reactionary. They will not be at the mercy of emotion. So it's this next big shift, according to human design, in our evolution.
That is so fascinating. I had no
Mm.
idea that that is really incredible. I'm so
Yeah.
thrilled that you talked about that. It's so hopeful, and knowing that
Yeah.
we're evolving. I mean, wow, it's a lot to ponder.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty cool. It's definitely like, I have such great faith, always have, in the human race. And I really feel like, although a lot of mainstream media would have us think that the sky is falling right now, I don't believe that. I believe that we are in a great time of opportunity. And, like, if you think about all the challenges we are going through right now as a planet, and if we stopped being reactionary, like if we actually became curious instead of judgmental, how different the choices would be that we make, how different the planet would be, because all of a sudden we're starting to see people as they are, not as we are. We're actually seeing people for who they are. And I think, yeah, we're in an exciting transformational time.
Yeah. Now, this was channeled over 8 days. Is he continuing to channel things, or was the 8 days it?
That was it. That was it for him. He actually he died prematurely. He had a heart attack
Oh,
in the 90s. So Ra is no longer with us. And human design is now at this place where, if you think about something like any of the other wisdoms on their own, astrology, like it's been around for thousands of years. Like it's such a long time. So all the testing and playing with the tool has happened. It's we've got a lot of pure data, you might say. Whereas with human design, we're now at this point where everybody's experimenting with it, everybody's trying it on, everyone's, bringing in their own opinion and their own information. So it's an exciting and a messy time to be playing around with human design.
yeah. And you have your own unique approach to that,
I
don't
do.
you? Yeah.
I do. Look, for me personally, I have, as I said, my background is behavioral coaching. So I've been working with helping people improve performance, leadership, success, all of these things through primarily mindset. And also a lot of, spiritual thing as well, like connecting to our higher self. But with human design, we get to take all of this mindset work, all of the personality and behavior work, and just access such greater specificity, meaning that things that we would never consider with our conscious mind are maybe our superpower or are maybe our challenge or fear. Human design helps us get really clear on that. So I've sort of taken all of my transformational coaching tools, models, and experience, put it together with human design. And not to over confuse the listener, I've also added in there the gene keys. So I don't know if you've heard about the gene keys, but they are extraordinary. Another piece of channeled wisdom by Richard Rudd, another extraordinary man. And, transformational human design that I've created is also got them in there as well.
Yeah, I have heard that term, but and it's interesting that you bring that up because the gene keys, they're related to human design.
They are.
They
Yeah,
are.
they
Okay.
are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So human design, I think the best way to explain it, Richard Rudd and my mentor once were having this conversation where human design is like the structure. Okay. It's like the skeleton. It's almost like the masculine, like it's the foundation. And then the gene keys is like the feminine, and it brings all these things to life and gives it depth and movement and grace and beauty. So the two of them work really beautifully together.
Yeah. I'm curious about, there are so many things out there for us, right? So many tools, so many experts, so many this, so many that, and it's hard as just a person who is excited to be alive right now, has this thirst to go out there and live their purpose. And they're like, but what is it? And so if they're looking for answers for themselves and they're ready to take action, here's human design. And so what would that look like for somebody? And I'm, I guess I'm curious too. Could you give us like a case study? Like here, somebody came in and they were like this. How can they be helped with this in a real sense, with actual, real life changing results?
Yeah, well, the best case study for me is me.
Great.
I think I have so many incredible stories. I'm just in pre-sale for a book that I've just written that has so many case studies in there. But look, honestly, I'm a 3-5 profile. So for anyone out there that knows anything about human design, you'll know that I am the experimenter. I'm the person that goes and tries everything and then calls out what doesn't work. And one of the things that I discovered, I was diagnosed 20 years ago with depression and panic disorder and told that I would never heal it, but I'd learn to manage it. And in that moment, I was like, yeah, no, that's not an option for me. Like, it was so painful for me. I considered taking my own life for 7 years. And when I got that diagnosis, I was like, it's a no. Like, no, I need to find a way to heal myself. So I've been through so many tools, methodologies, spiritual texts, like you name it, I've read it, I've studied it. And the beauty of human design, like what makes human design the standout for me, is that what it actually teaches you to do is become the authority in your own life. That you stop giving your power away to everybody else and you start listening to your own internal guidance system. So in human design, we talk about these two things called strategy and authority. And each one of us, our strategy is determined by our type, and our authority is something that is unique to each of us. And there are only, I think, eight authorities. So there's not millions of them, but once we actually understand how our strategy, which is how the universe guides us, and our authority, which is our internal biofeedback guidance system, higher self, whatever you want to call it, and these two loop together as the communication that guides us and moves us and puts us where we need to be. When you trust that, when you know how to work with that, then no matter what's going on in your life, it's going to guide you. Because as you say, there are so many experts out there spouting that they're experts. And honestly, most of them are not experts. Trust me, I've tried. I've been there. And so what they do is they help us get really clear on what is correct for us. So let me give you an example.
Hello, it's Andrea, and in addition to being your host here at the podcast, I'm the founder of Mainstream Reiki, where bringing Reiki further into the mainstream is my mission. I offer quality Reiki classes of all levels to students attending live from around the world. And I've built a membership community as well to help Reiki people connect with each other through discussions, events, and Reiki practice. So if you're considering learning Reiki, or you already have, I invite you to visit mainstreamreiki.com to discover your next step in your Reiki journey. Thank you. And now, back to the show.
And I'll give you two different examples. The first one is mine. Now, as I promised the universe, I would run my human design experiment, and I started to integrate it into my business. And and this was working with CEOs and GMs in the corporate space. One day I got this insight that I had to change the name of my podcast to the Human Design Podcast. Now, it came out of the blue. My ego was like, you can't do that. Who are you? You don't know enough. Like all of the crap that our inner critic tells us, that our ego tells us. But I was like, well, I'm just going to ignore that because I'm going to follow strategy and authority. So as a manifesting generator, I had a thought, I had an insight or a download. So I can't act on it. There's no action energy there yet. So I have to wait for something external of me to respond to before I know, yes, I have energy for that. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, my ego can go crazy because I'm not going to act on it yet anyway. Write it down in my journal. I get on the phone the next day to a mentor of mine, and he literally says to me, someone needs to do a podcast on this, Emma. And in that moment, my whole gut just went, yes, okay, that's what I needed. So I'm not giving my power away to anyone else to tell me what I should or shouldn't do. I'm not thinking my way there that I should do this or I should do that. I'm literally letting my body, my higher self, the universe, just respond to what's going on. And, then my podcast becomes, one of the leading human design podcasts globally. So when we start to really listen to our strategy and authority, and honestly, you can learn your type, your strategy, authority, maybe your profile, and then you really don't need more if you don't want to go any deeper. This is enough to completely transform your life. And we've got people in my community that have gone from being a lifelong educator, signed up to do her master's, even though it was draining and she didn't want to do it, but she just thought she should do it. And over the space of 18 months, she completely turned her entire life around as a projector, doing work like a generator, like day in, day out exhaustion. She gave up. She never did the master's. She left education, being in the classroom education. She dealt with all of her own inner demons and then completely turned her life around to now she works as a projector, as a coach and mentor in a corporate business, working a few hours, having a lot of impact in those hours and lots of time to do what she loves to do. So How did she do that? She followed her strategy and authority. She understood as a projector. She's not designed to do work in that way. So the more we experiment, even with the high level stuff, we can have incredible change and transformation in our life.
That's incredible. Yeah, and I have to tell you, I don't know a lot about my type or anything. I know I'm a manifesting generator. So when you were talking about that with your story and how it came in, the idea to change the name, and that everything you said about that whole sequence, I totally resonate with that because that's how it is for me.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I guess the reason I'm just kind of really struck by that is I thought that was everybody. But what I'm
No,
hearing you say is that isn't everybody doesn't work that way. I
no,
just thought that's how it was for people.
exactly. And
That's
that's the
really informative because
right.
that's very helpful. Just knowing that the process that I go through is a lot of other people do that, but it isn't just a normal thing that all humans do. And I
Mm,
think that there's a lot there. I think that can help with communication and understanding and again, releasing the judgment, that kind
yeah.
of thing, just having that understanding. And so can you then explain for a projector, for example, how would that scenario have gone for a projector?
Mm. So a projector is all about being they're here to be seen and recognized. They're also not designed to do hour upon hour upon hour of work. And I actually was working with a projector yesterday who is someone I've known for a long time who has a very, very successful business. And he basically like he's a person who spends hours, like days, months, years studying something. Now, that energy that he puts into studying things, that's not work. That gives him energy, right? But when you put him in his business, in a boardroom, let's say, with his team, and he's in there for 2 long days, then he's out for the count for the 2 days after because he doesn't have that consistent energy. You and I, we could sit in the room all week. We like love it. We're lit up. We're doing the things, but not for projectors. So one of the big shifts for projectors is understanding that you only have a few hours a day of what we would call, that old school conditioned work, the doing you have to do to get the job done. Whereas your obsession, the thing you want to learn about, the thing that gives you energy, that's where most of your energy is designed to go. Because when you do that, you're creating wisdom. You're seeing the efficiencies. Often you're creating systems. So the way that's going to work is, and I'll use this person as an example, is that he then one day just went off and started to create something because he was passionate about it. He wanted to know if it would work. So he was just playing with this thing. And then his now business partner comes along, and I'm pretty confident his business partner is at least a generator, if not a manifesting generator. And he's like, oh my God, this is incredible. We need to build this. So then they build it out into a highly successful business. It's a product that I've used for years that I really, really believe in. And so together, like his wisdom, he didn't do anything. He was just like, I'm just doing this thing over here. In fact, he coached his business partner. That's how they met. And then his business partner was so inspired, he wanted to build this thing. So projectors need to like stop trying to build everything. They have to stop trying to push themselves to be seen and to be acknowledged and work on the thing that they love because the invitations will come from there.
I just think that's so neat. And what about workplaces? I mean, they're all and I guess COVID helped us kind of get out of the normal office type mentality and the 9 to 5, and at least it shook some of that stuff up. But what I'm hearing is that we could probably be so much more productive in the world if
Yep.
our work lives weren't supposed to be 9 to 5 cookie cutter and, you know, run like crazy till you drop because that
Yeah.
isn't everybody.
it's not everybody. And even manifesting generators like me, for example. So my energy, the deeper I go and really understanding my energy at a deep level, I'm at what we call a sprinter. So I work hard for a few days and then I don't work at all. Um, my energy is designed to work in sprints. So my whole business, my role in my business, they're all sprints. Whereas my COO, Taylor, she's also a manifesting generator, but with a different design. And she works consistently all the time. She doesn't work in sprints, it's consistent. So when we start to understand our energy at a deeper level, imagine, like, not only do we go and do the work that we want to do, that lights us up, that we have energy for, but we're working in the way that our bodies, our minds, and our spirits are actually designed to work. And what that means is, number one, we stop burning out, because the non-sacral beings, which are our manifestors, our projectors, and our reflectors, they stop burning out and getting autoimmune disorders. And the generators and manifesting generators, they stop doing this thing called functional burnout. So for us as sacral beings, we can keep going, but we can literally disconnect from the passion, from the life force of life, and almost become zombies. And that's the way that we burn out. And it's not to say that we can't get autoimmunes, because yes, we can. But, if we stop doing that and focus more on what we're aligned to do, I mean, we can get so much more done, and listening to our strategy and our authority, it wants to take us on the fastest road. It wants to take us on the fastest path to get to the destination. And the destination is always going to be, growth, learning, overcoming challenge, becoming a better version of ourselves. But even the everyday goals, whether it's our financial goals or our career goals or our, parenting goals. But the whole point is that when we stop trying to think our way there and start listening to the bigger guidance within us and, without us, depending on how you see it, then all of a sudden the steps are less and the path is shorter. So we actually create so much more, beauty in the world.
And I would think that mental health would just completely shift.
Yeah.
I mean,
I think
where
mental
we
health,
are. Yeah. Go ahead.
Mental health for me is such a, because of my journey with mental health, and I'm always very clear to say, look, this is my journey, but I did have the most extreme version of that. And the way that the system dealt with me and disempowered me was awful. They took all my power away. They said it's genetic, there's nothing I can do about it. And it's just not true. Like, even if it did come down, it did come down my mother's side, it doesn't mean I'm powerless. And I think this is the biggest piece with mental health is, anxiety is fear of the future, and depression is regret from the past. And we're so stuck in these places where we think we got it wrong, or we made mistakes, or we're afraid things are going to happen, because we don't trust who we are. We don't trust life. We don't love ourselves. We don't accept ourselves. And one of the things I love about human design, in all the years, the thousands of charts that I've looked at, no one has ever said, oh, that's a surprise. They have all said, oh my God, you've just given me permission to be me. I love that human design gives you the language to what you're already feeling inside. I'm not telling you anything new. I'm telling you the things that you already know on a really deep level, and giving you permission to be that.
How transformative, because it's validating. And one of the things that I'm seeing so much in these, times that we're in, is this call home. The call home to the trust ourselves, and that the authority is within us, and that's where we access. And you already mentioned it in our time together, and that was sort of the, having to look outside the self for, the answers, the authority, and all of that. And it's so true that now's the time. People are tired of that. We're over the guru thing and all of that stuff. And how exciting about feeling empowered and trusting yourself. I mean, it's like that I think is something that we've been heading toward forever. And I
Yeah.
just feel like we're so getting there. I mean, we're right there. And so many people are waking up to that. What about schools, Emma? Because my mind just keeps going, oh, yeah, but wait, what about human design here? What about
Yeah.
schools?
Yeah. I love this. So, again, I think one of the things that's fascinating, having been someone who's been in my human design experiment for many, many years now, I think schools are definitely on my horizon. I was diagnosed with dyslexia very young, and that label gave me permission to quit, to give up, to think I was stupid, all of these things. And over the last 20 years, I've healed that trauma. I've healed so much. And as I've come to human design, it's really helped me dive deep into my own authentic confidence. And I like the original knowledge, and again, what the voice said to Ra was that human design, it's going to be great for us, but it's not actually for us, it's for our children. It's for the children. It's for the kids that are going to create this new world. And I'm really grateful to say that human design turned up at a time where my kids were still little. So, over the last 6 years, they've been raised with alignment to their design. And, I have these children that everyone's like, oh my God, what's with your kids? They're epic, like they're confident and they believe in themselves. And, like I remember we did homeschooling for a year because we were traveling around Australia. And at the end of it, they did an exit interview and they ask all of these questions and they actually say, like, what would you change? What didn't you like? And my kids like, well, this teacher didn't deal very well with this and didn't take responsibility for that. And I didn't like what you did. And they were like, my God, your children actually told us what they really thought and felt. I'm like, yeah, because that's what they've been taught to do since they were tiny. So, and like my kids to this day, my eldest is 17 and he makes decisions on his gut. If his gut says yes, then he does it. Even though he knows that his ego is going to be chitter chattering in there, trying to give him a different idea, decision, whatever, he's like, I'm just trusting my gut. And my youngest is the same. So I think the power of this, for me, my long-term vision, and knowing me, I'll probably end up building it myself, but is definitely to create schools that are in alignment with the kids' design. Because, like my kids are both manifesting generators. So they need a lot of freedom. And our conditioned education system is not that way. They don't get freedom. Both of them go to Steiner school now, so they get the freedom that they need. Both my kids are line fours, which means their relationships are incredibly important. So I've chosen, like when we talked about schools, I'm like, well, Steiner is all about community and family, which suits my kids' design. So for the children, it's epic. Not only can we teach them from the get-go to love, trust, and accept themselves, like at their most authentic level, and that they can make decisions, that they're empowered and in their own authority to make decisions correct for them. But also, like in the future, I feel like this is how we create a completely different race, by educating, like let projectors all be in a room and like obsess about stuff and all of them like have all the answers. Let them do that, let them be that way, but stop running them around ovals and making them do all this extracurricular activity, because they're just not designed to do that. You're burning them out. And our little reflectors need to have time in every classroom to be away from everyone else. Like give them time out in a positive way, not in a negative way. So yeah, I mean, I think there's so much value in looking at human design and integrating it into education. And we have so many teachers in our community where we talk a lot about this.
It's funny because I started earlier and I mentioned workplaces. And then when we started talking about the children, and then those two ideas kind of collided for me because I had a little glitch of worry, like, oh, but those children are going to grow up and then they're going to be in the workplace. And I thought, no, because they will be the ones who change the workplace. So it's all
Exactly.
kind of baked in if we
Yeah.
think about it like that. And there's no fight there. It's just
Mm.
new creation, which how
Exactly.
perfect is that?
Exactly. And there's so many people now. I mean, where And I love that you just did the most manifesting generator thing. Like you took the kids and you took corporate and you put them together, like that's what manifesting generators do. They take things and they put them together. But I think there are so many people out there. We're going back into corporate next year. So many people are already doing this in a corporate space. They're really understanding that we have to do things differently. So, I mean, I look at my children and they're not tethered to the way you succeed. Yes, they have an entrepreneurial mum and dad. They see that you don't have to go down this same path. They have the freedom to go to university. I mean, it's very different. It's very easy for us to go to university here in Australia. So they have all of these options, but what they have that most kids don't have is that they are free to follow whatever path is correct for them, because they know that if they follow their design, that the right job or the right business or the right whatever they need will show up for them, and then they will have the energy to build that thing or to do that thing. And I think that a lot of the kids will literally pick up where kind of COVID left off and redesign the workplace. I mean, it's already happening. And yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of change in the next even 10 years. Things are going to look nothing like what they look like now.
I can imagine there'll be well, I think this is true throughout all of history, right? Um, there are people graduating high school today, and the job that they'll really spend their life doing isn't even invented yet,
Exactly.
So I think this is, I guess, not really any different with that. But I think it speaks to this component about following the guidance and following the gut and things like that, because you don't have to have that plan of what I'm going to be doing in 20 years when you take that route, when you're just following the next best feeling, that guidance that comes through. What a way to live. It's a way to live that's alive, instead of looking at the list, what's next on my list. And I had thoughts too when you were talking about schools and things. I have 2 children, they're in their 20s. My older one, it was a bunch of hoops, because he wanted to go to college, be an engineer, that's who he is. But it's like, okay, so you have to play an instrument, you have to do the cross country, you have to make this resume, here in the States, so you can get a scholarship. And it's all about the checking the boxes, fitting in that mold and all of this. So, wow. And then my younger son, it's like he already knows this, because he said, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm going to do what feels right for me. And that threw us for a loop, as mom and dad. And so we grew through that process. We learned so much from him and how he was navigating. And, I'm cool with it because, I have this broader perspective, but it can be tough for parents, or maybe even grandparents, having these younger generations coming in, because I would imagine it can be taken kind of the wrong way sometimes. Like, well, wait, if you're not doing it the way I did it, what are you saying about me? And are you saying I was wrong? So, a lot of healing there, a lot of potential.
Well, I think that's the biggest thing is that, and even the method in which, like the jumping through hoops, like what's the purpose of that? Well, the purpose is to be obedient, to do what you're told, to do what you have to do to get what you want. So if you do what you're told, then I'll give you what you want. And that's not the world that we're creating, and I do think that a lot of parents, there's definitely been part of me where I'm just like, I just literally have to remove myself from the room or not say the thing. And because at the end of the day, we are taking so many people, adults are taking their children's choices personally. Like it's not about us as their parents, it's about them. And when we put them through systems that make them jump through hoops and do things, what we're teaching them is how we think they need to succeed, what success looks like by someone else's definition. We're not empowering them to discover it like your youngest did for themselves. We are presupposing that they can't work this shit out on their own. Sorry, terrible potty mouth. They can't work this stuff out on their own. So this is the way you have to do it, because that's how we were treated. We were taught that we can't work out this stuff on our own, so we have to do it this way. And it's just not true. The truth is that there is so much power that lives within us, so much power that we don't even, we're not even close to tapping into. I just recently went to a Greg Braden event, and he said this quote that just hit me between the eyes. It's like, as human beings, we are just about to give away our humanness to AI and technology before we actually realize how powerful we really are. And I think that this is the point. Like, if we are strong enough as parents to step back and have an overarching trust that they will work this out, belief in them, then they're unstoppable. They will be unstoppable, because if we model to them that we believe in them and we teach them how, then they will become these powerful, they will become a lot more powerful than we are, because we're still unpacking our conditioning from our childhood.
That's so true. It's so true. Yeah. It was funny for me. I have a memory. I guess I had this aha moment as a mom, and I remember when it hit me. Oh, wait, they're their own people. They are not extensions of me.
Yeah.
And so I had that moment of clarity, and I'll never forget that. Certainly, I have moments that I probably forget that, but it is a truth. And I love that we talked about that, because I think when the, you know, parents, grandparents, I think when the older generations can let go, and you said the word that it lit up for me when you said it, and that's trust. We have to just trust, right? I mean, the days
Yeah.
of being ruled by fear, I mean, enough already.
Yeah.
It'll work out, right?
Yeah. I mean, it always does. I mean, we're
Yeah.
here, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's that as a coach, whenever people are afraid of something, it's like, but you're already here. Look what you've created already. You're alive. You're well. You're okay. Most of us in the Western world are okay, like, and we're not coming from that point. And I think this big trust piece, we have to trust life. We have to stop giving our power away to authorities that are telling us they are doing things for our best, but they're not. They're stopping us thinking it for ourselves, feeling for ourselves, knowing for ourselves, because they want us to be easy to manage. Whereas I say, let's stop that. Let's not be easy to manage. Let's learn to love, trust, and accept ourselves. Because when we love, trust, and accept ourselves, we live in a universe that's governed by the principle, as within, so without, as above, so below. So if we love, trust, and accept ourselves, then we can only create that reality external of us. That means that we all come together. I mean, the separation that we are encouraged to see, it's not true. We all need each other. We are all so much more similar, alike than we are taught. Yet we all have these beautiful, unique differences. And I feel like that's where human design, really comes to life. Like, really knowing us at a unique, authentic level. However, we are all the same. We are all this one life force entity. That the sooner we work that stuff out and start working together, the better.
I am so hopeful for the future after
Me
talking to
too.
you. Yeah. And, I'm going to, wow, we're almost out of time, but I have I guess, two things to ask you. The first one would be, what do you think the biggest misconceptions or misunderstandings are where human design is concerned?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. I think the biggest thing for me is that we have to be very aware not to jump out of one dogma and into another. So there are
Mm,
a lot of people that are teaching human design as a dogma, that if this is your type, or this is your profile, or this is your incarnation cross, and this is who you are. That is not true. Who you are is, I often say that human design is the treasure map, but you're the treasure. You get to choose how you shine. Nobody else can tell you how to do that. So I think one of the big misconceptions is that I see way too many people going from one identity to another. I am a projector. I am a manifester. I can only do things this way because I'm a line 3. And that's not true. And what I would encourage you to do is to run the experiment. Like, this was one of the really important, profound pieces of information from The Voice, was this is an experiment. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you go and get your free chart, you jump on to the links that send you to the podcast episode, you listen to it, and then you pay attention to what happens in your body. Does it resonate? Does it feel like, oh my God, I have energy for this? Yep, that feels true. I'm curious about that. I'm going to go and learn more. And then once you've done that, implement it into your life. Actually see if this feels true for you. Does it make life better? Experiment. Don't just take someone's word for it. So the biggest piece of guidance for me is always, you must be able to learn it, implement it. A lot of people don't implement it. They just wear it like an identity. And then if it changes your life for the better, then do more of it. Like, that really for me is the key.
Yeah, it sounds like a great formula. Yeah. Yeah. So I guess the final thing I was going to ask you was really, how can people contact you, or what would you like to express here to the listener and the watchers on YouTube?
Well, I think one of the big things for me is always, like, I've been obsessed with human potential my entire life, and this word greatness. And that is, it's not this greatness that the old white guy has taught us is great. It's the greatness of our heart. It's the authentic expression, the empowered power that sits within us. And for me, it's my mission to get as many people accessing that authentic power, that authentic success as possible. And if you want to do that, and you want to do that with me, then you can find me. My website is emmadunwoody.com. You can get your free chart, and we will, send you to the right episodes for you once you put your chart in. The podcast, which is the Human Design Podcast, I break down all the parts of the chart. There's a roadmap. So if you're new, you can literally just go to the roadmap series and follow that. And then you can find me on Instagram. I'm the Human Design Coach. And I'm also super excited to say that I've written a book. And by the time this podcast comes out, we'll still be in pre-sale. So we'll make sure that you have all the links. But it's called Human Design Made Simple. One of my core talents in my design, and there's a specific place in your design that you can find this, is about simplifying the complex. And basically, I take this very complex tool system of human design and make it super simple so that you can integrate it into your life and get results fast. So, there's that as well.
That's phenomenal. And yeah, we'll even update, once the book comes out, we'll update our notes and put the links.
Amazing.
So people that find the show later on after the book is out, will have that there for them. So
Awesome.
Emma,
Thank
this
you.
has just been remarkable. I love your energy, your enthusiasm, your authenticity. And as I already said, I'm so hopeful for the future, and it's contagious. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks so much for having me. I've loved every second of it.
Me too. And from myself and the team here at Beyond the Reiki Gateway, we'd like to say thank you to our listeners for all of your support, including leaving great reviews, becoming BTRG insiders, and sharing the show with your friends and family. Drop us a line at info@beyondthereikigateway.com anytime. Tell us what's on your mind and take great care. Until next time. Thank you for listening, and you can check the show notes or visit the website beyondthereikigateway.com to find out more about the podcast and connect with me. Please keep in mind that views and opinions expressed in the show don't necessarily reflect those of the podcast or anyone affiliated with its production or advertising. This program is presented for your entertainment only, and all information provided is to be utilized at the listener's own discretion. I, along with the BTRG team, hope you enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it for you. Wishing you highest blessings until we meet again beyond the Reiki Gateway.